Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. In a world where action movies are constantly exploding at the box office, our heroes take on the monumental task of dissecting and analyzing all aspects of action movies to truly understand what it takes to make a great action film. Ben Bateman, Andrew Ghai, in a Popcorn Talk Network exclusive. This is Action Movie Anatomy.
What's up, everybody? How you doing? I'm Ben Bateman, your host of Action Movie Anatomy on the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network devoted to bringing you all content movie-related. I am joined today by my co-host, Andrew Ghai.
I'm back, and my shirt's mostly waterproof.
And our special guest today, Razzle.
What's up? How's everybody doing?
Yeah, so thanks for coming, Razzle.
Thanks for having me.
Razzle's a stand-up comic. He has a couple podcasts out there, Nerdist and Wolf Pop, so he should have some entertaining and funny things to say on the movie for us today.
And I just love action movies. Huge fan of action movies.
You have to if you're going to be in this room with us.
That's right. That's right.
On board. Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. So, today, guys, episode 3 of Action Movie Anatomy covers a classic from 1994 called Speed. Or, in other words, the bus that wouldn't slow down.
Couldn't slow down.
That couldn't slow down. So here on the show, we qualify movies, the most classic of action movies, in 4 categories. They were released after 1981. The hero is always the smartest guy in the room, along with the villain. There's at least one explosion. The hero always plays by their own rules, and the hero also is a police, military, or political figure. As with most cases, this one qualifies. So we're going to get right into it. We want to show you guys the trailer first, because the trailer is awesome. So let's take a look.
Quiz. Airport. Gunman with one hostage. He's using her for cover.
That's a great 90s trailer.
You're 100 feet away.
I wonder if people will like this trailer as much as we do.
People didn't like the Edge of Tomorrow trailer as much as we did.
No.
People are stupid.
No, they're not.
They're not. We love them for watching us.
Edge of Tomorrow is a great movie.
Oh, they love the movie. They just didn't like the trailer. Which kind of blew me away.
Bomb's already taken out cables. Bomber wants $3 million or he blows the emergency.
This is my favorite line.
Anything else that'll keep this elevator from falling?
Yeah. The basement, yeah.
I like, it can strike anywhere. At any time.
Please sign in.
The guy who did those 90s.
Oh, he did. There's 2 of them.
Yeah,
like the 2.
This one, I think this guy's dead though, right?
Yeah, and he was the guy.
He was the guy.
Uh-huh.
So are people watching this and hearing us?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, there's a movie, like a comedic movie about his daughter called In a World.
Oh.
It's actually really good.
Nice.
It talks a lot about voiceover and the business and all that.
So good. Hopper's classic.
So good in this.
He's like a certain point of crazy, like past his prime, but like insane in a kind of a campy way.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Well, and like the voiceover guy, like I'm listening to it, and it's not even like it's like an action voiceover. He's like doing like a scream voiceover. Like there's don't turn the corner.
Right.
It's the same voice for every
Did
trailer
you lock
he
your
does.
doors?
Well, they also
Someone is in your refrigerator.
Yeah. They also had no idea that this movie was going to be a hit. So like everything about the way that it's sold and all of it.
30. I mean, it was the budget was so low.
I know. We were shocked when we looked at the budget.
Blew my mind when I found out how low it is.
So
Like,
we
that's independent movie right now. That's like a Cannes movie. Like, oh, you only paid
100%.
$30 million to make this movie?
Right. Then it was just a massive,
It's
massive
going straight to
success,
VOD. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
God, this trailer's so good.
It's a really good one.
It's just a classic 90s
Just
trailer.
and the opening line, of this trailer is just amazing. Like, it was so good.
It's really like, to me, it's like an amazing reminder of how effective a scenario can be. Like just the scenario of this movie is what makes it. And we're gonna start with this one with profiles, star breakdown. So we want to look at where Keanu Reeves and Dennis Hopper, because at this point Bullock was kind of an unknown. So we give her an honorable mention here, but we want to start with, Hopper and Reeves, where they were in their careers. So I'm gonna go through this. Keanu Reeves' sort of 3 most recent hits that would have maybe related to the same audience were Point Break in 1991, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, also 91, and Dracula in 92. And this is 94. So he had a few other movies in there, but as far as like maybe the same male audience probably would have seen those other movies.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's literally at the pinnacle, or like the beginning of the pinnacle of his career. Like he goes, I mean, because 5 years later he's in The Matrix, and
Right.
it seems like a totally different person.
Right.
But he's been grinding since the mid '80s. He just has a few movies every single year.
He was in Youngblood with Rob Lowe.
I mean, the only way this movie could have made even more money is if Dennis Hopper's character name was Bodie, and and Keanu was actually Johnny Utah, just a new cop in a new city saving a bomb on a bus.
Do you know what I find fascinating is actually that this movie came out in '94, and Point Break, which for the record is my all-time favorite movie, is 3 years prior. Like it took him 3 years to give Keanu another action vehicle, and Point Break was hugely successful. That was
because there are no dead president masks in Speed.
Yeah,
It would have came out 2 years prior if everybody on the bus was wearing a mask.
So what's mind-blowing is that because Point Break was a success, but it wasn't. I don't think they attributed the success to Keanu. They attributed it to Swayze.
Yes.
Which is why this movie, it was not supposed to be as big as it was. It came out in June. We'll get to that later when we talk about box office stuff.
Yeah.
But
Well, the interesting thing about that is that Paramount didn't want anything to do with it because they were like, Keanu just can't carry a movie. He's not enough star power to get this thing going. And that's why Fox ended up picking up later on. But yeah, you're right. Keanu did not have, his name was not that powerful yet.
yeah, so he's like front end of the action star Keanu that we eventually, came to know and love. I mean, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey obviously was a sequel, so that did pretty well. Dracula is the same, like, that kind of witless Keanu character that shows up in like The Devil's Advocate, and like the one where he's like kind of a good to do nice guy who's just kind of like airheaded. That's like sort of the same character that he plays in Dracula.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of plays that in this movie too. He's just like the nice cop, like, "Oh, ma'am," and he's calling everybody. He's like, "I just want to save everybody on the bus."
So Drew and I talked about this the other day. Like, one of the rules is that you have to be you have to be the smartest guy in the room, right? That's like one of the rules. But it's funny because we were saying like he's like accidentally the nicest, the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, like he is the smartest guy in the room, but it's he's like screwing up the whole time he's doing it, and it just works out. He's like, "Oh yeah, perfect."
But he's only the smartest guy on the bus. Like if you put him in the room with anybody else, he's not.
Jeff Daniels.
Proves the point that he's the smartest guy. And then, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the movie, he's not at the end of the movie.
Well, the thing is, also, you see with some of these movies is that, like, if you do have one of those heroes that's maybe lacking some quality, there's often the balance guy. So, like in The Rock, Nick Cage is the smartest guy, but he doesn't have, like, the badassness that, Sean Connery has. So they kind of pair together. It's the same with Jeff Daniels and Connery in this movie.
Yep.
They're kind of both halves.
They create the ultimate hero.
I mean, and half of the problem would have been, if Keanu was just smart and he got on the bus, he would have just been like, "Dudes, I'm a cop. There's a bomb on the bus. That's why I tried so hard to get on this bus.
Right.
Don't shoot the driver." Would have been that easy. I'm not here for anybody. There's just a bomb on the bus.
Instead,
I don't care about your crime.
Yeah. Like this, just you jumped on the bus. You tried so hard to get on the bus. Just tell everybody. Don't try and keep secrets. Just be like, "Look, here's the deal. Stay calm."
But then that would have defeated all the tensions. So that's Keanu. Then you look over to Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
Now Hopper did like 7 movies in 1993. Like but none of them really
actor.
were huge blockbusters. He was just working and grinding. So the ones we listed were all 93. Find us on Twitter, comment, etc., interact with us. It'd be awesome. We'd love to talk to you guys and hear what you think. So you mentioned that the movie was going to have other people, that it had gone through various rewrites. So let's kind of get into how it got made. It's written by Graham Yost, who at the time was not exactly he wasn't a home run hitter, so to speak. He ended up, writing this movie. He wrote Broken Arrow. He wrote Mission to Mars. He really ended up... Now, he was a cinematographer for like 30 years.
A much more successful cinematographer than he ever was a director.
I mean, massive. Like he worked with Paul Verhoeven, right? Verhoeven's like very, very famous for doing kind of these self-satirical takes on genres that are Starship Troopers, right?
Yeah,
it's
RoboCop.
RoboCop, yeah. It's like poking fun at his own genre. Showgirls is like the ultimate example of this, where he's like, I'm gonna, strippers and and it's just gonna be funny. But he was a director who was very famous in the 70s and the 80s, and Jan de Bont was his cinematographer for almost every movie he ever did. And this took him all the way through Basic Instinct. He did the cinematography for The Hunt for Red October. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Lethal Weapon 3, All the Right Moves, starring Tom Cruise, the football movie.
Of course.
But you just had to talk about Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
you couldn't do one episode.
I love Tom Cruise. This is his directorial debut, though. They gave him Speed because he had this idea, and he thought, I guess they were like, well, this guy's made movies for 30 years. He's been behind the camera.
Yeah.
And this was his most successful movie.
Yeah. After that, it just kind of goes downhill. He only directs 6 more movies or something like that?
I think 5 total his whole career.
Yeah.
It's like this, and then he does Twister,
Okay,
And
this
he
is a
does-
really good movie.
Twister's pretty sweet.
It's
Billy
enjoyable.
Paxton. I'll watch Bill Paxton do anything.
I love Bill Paxton.
Is it Yeah, it's Paxton. It's Paxton. And then he does Speed 2.
Okay.
And then he does Mission to Mars. Is that right?
Is it Hard Rain?
No, that's one of the producers.
Oh, okay, right.
He does the Haunting remake in '99. That's what it is.
Right.
And then finally he did Lara Croft Tomb Raider 2, the Cradle of Life.
One of the best movies ever made. That was when they were like, all right, dude, you're done. Sorry, no more.
Kind of fell off the cliff at that point. He
Huge
did,
fan of Cradles. I'm a huge fan of Cradles.
he didn't really work again as a
Huge
director.
fan of Lives and Cradles.
Yeah, it's interesting about the writing of this is that, like I had mentioned earlier, Paramount originally had this movie. They wanted to take it, and they were like, no, we're not going to do it. We don't want Keanu, and we don't like the script. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this guy, Joss Whedon. Does that ring a bell with anyone?
Yeah.
He has actually
What's
been...
he done?
Just go ahead and IMDb him when we're done.
IMDb.
You might recognize a few of the movies.
Okay.
He actually was credited for writing most of the dialogue of this movie. And at that point, once the dialogue was rewritten, that's when Keanu signed on. Because he thought that the movie sounded too much like Die Hard originally.
Just dropped a
Oh
pen,
yeah,
so-
Joss Whedon. Joss Whedon. He's the guy who allegedly stole the plot and story for Cabin in the Woods.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
That
Joss
guy.
Whedon. Joss Whedon.
That obscure writer.
That obscure writer.
That guy has like really immersed himself.
He's going nowhere.
It's amazing how much he's done. If you think about this is '94 and Buffy was back then. The movie, the show, the comic book following.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, was it Joss or JJ? One of the two was like pretty much wrote the story for Toy Story 1 also, I believe.
Oh.
Or it was pickup art like punch ups, jokes or something like that. One of those two. Like you think of them now, they're all huge now, but
Yeah.
I mean, you really look back and it's like
They were just
They got their
grinding.
fingers
grinding
and a little
since
bit
they
of
were
everything.
kids almost.
Yeah,
It's like,
absolutely.
If I had to guess, I would guess it was Joss Whedon.
It probably is.
Abrams feels he's more action oriented.
Yeah.
More action sci-fi.
Yeah, and Joss has got like a very
But it's amazing. Like you forget how long they've been in the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so as we talked about, this movie didn't get made. It didn't get made with the idea that Keanu was going to be a superstar, an action superstar, right? Like I said, Point Break was sort of driven by Swayze. So when they did make it, this production team who was on it, there's a guy named Ian Bryce. Now he's the executive producer of this movie. His first notable credit was that he was a production assistant on Return of the Jedi.
Oh, yes.
He was then tasked with doing the 1985 TV movie Ewoks: The Battle for Endor, which, by the way, guys, the whole movie is streaming on YouTube. You could find it.
I love it.
This was like what Star Wars was at its like most commercial mid-'80s stretch, and they were just pumping out everything they could.
I think the best part about it is that it starred Wilford Brimley, who has diabetes.
Wilford Brimley and Warwick Davis.
The leprechaun.
Yeah. Warwick Davis is from Willow, mind you.
Yeah.
Willow!
I cannot wait to watch that movie.
Yeah,
Oh, it's good. I remember it.
Yeah. Oh, you've seen it.
Oh
The
yeah.
Ewok movie?
Oh, of course.
Battle for Endor. Okay.
Huge Star Wars fan.
So he also, that he worked on Batman Returns as a producer, Howard the Duck, Beverly Hillbillies, but really following Speed, he kind of skyrocketed into like the stratosphere. Saving Private Ryan, Almost Famous, all the Transformers movies, World War Z. Definitely kind of a who's who of Michael Bay related movies in the last 10 years, especially.
Oh, Michael Bay, huge fan.
But he worked with two other producers, Mark Gordon and Alison Leon, and they were actually.
They all worked on Saving Private Ryan together.
Yeah, so the first half of their all like sort of careers as producers, they were all kind of related. But after the Bay separation by Ian Bryce, we'll say, he starts to work on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all the Transformers movies, and Pain and Gain, The Island. They sort of stopped working together as much. But
And then Gordon kind of went on to be like the Roland Emmerich guy for a little bit, right?
she worked on Day After Tomorrow and Shark Tale and another, I think, 2012 as well. So anyways, that's the sort of the production team behind it. I do think with Jan de Bont, it's really interesting that a first-time director was able to get the tone of this movie. It doesn't feel like this movie doesn't feel like it's just a visual movie. And you would expect a guy that was behind the camera for so long and was in charge of shooting it to maybe be a little bit more cinematic, like everything, that's what you're paying attention to. And there are some moments, of course.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, there are some moments, but I mean, this movie is driven by the circumstances more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's the tone, the movie in general is so like once you get invested, you're on board like the whole movie.
Right.
Like you're not second guessing anything. There's the bomb on the bus. You know this.
Right.
You know they can't slow down, and you've been in traffic before.
Right.
Right.
Like that's all you need to know. And it's such. I mean, he nails it perfectly. Like it's.
Yeah.
You know,
It's such a great. Like he nails everything. I mean, there's not a ton of humor. There's not. I mean, there's a little bit, but it's like. It's more like cutting through how stressful this situation would be.
Right, and you just said, so you've got me on board, there's a bomb on the bus, and this brings up an interesting topic that you and I had a discussion about, which is the first 15 minutes of this movie relevant at all?
Yeah, so it's the whole action movie pretense thing, right? Like this is the thing that 90s movies did in a big way. And nowadays, when you look at a movie like Taken that's trying to capitalize on the old genre, you have to do this thing where you establish the characters. You put them in an initial situation. The Rock does it, obviously.
The Expendables.
Yeah, and it's about 12 minutes of exposition that's like, this is where this guy lives. This is one quality that's going to come back later that you're going to know about him. This is his wife. You know what I mean? This is what he grew up doing.
Yeah.
Right? He's obsessive compulsive. He locks his doors or something, and then that ends up playing in the movie. You have to ask yourself, this movie, when the bus blows up and the phone rings, you're kind of, at that moment, you're kind of like, I'm on board. This is great. You're like, I'm going to watch this. Couldn't you have just started the movie there?
No, and I'll tell you why. There was so much dialogue prior to in the elevator and setting up Dennis Hopper's role about being a disgruntled policeman, as well as the watch. I believe Jeff Daniels mentioned something about when you retire, I get a gold watch or whatever.
Yeah, there's so much
foreshadowing in that. And that also shows Keanu Reeves' great thinking action-wise, like hey, let's hook up this giant cable to it, where Jeff Daniels is more of the smart bomb guy. So it sets up their dynamic of being partners and the risking someone's life to get the bad guy. So it sets up the character thought processes of Keanu being like, screw it, I'm gonna jump on. He's like, all I know is being physicalities, and so that's why. I mean, and it sets up the idea of the game of him specifically targeting Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I'm with Razzle on this one.
I mean?
Like when you and I talked about this, you were kind of on the fence about it, and you were saying that the movie could start right when that bus blows up, and I do agree with you. I think that it would still be a good enough movie, but I like the exposition. I like everything they talk about. I like that it lays it all out, and you do get a little bit of that, like he wakes up, he pets his dog, blah blah, with the banter between Daniels and Keanu. So I like it.
Yeah, I don't think that it's bad for the movie. The more I thought about it, the more I was like, when I watched this movie, less this one, The Rock really is the one that screams, like this beginning section is just kind of. But I mean, I do love that this genre and this era too, and we talked about this on, we might have talked about this on Air Force One. The music that they put on the credits in these movies at the beginning, it's like you roll credits and it's just like dun 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 dun, and you're like, oh, this is great.
You are excited to watch this movie right now. Dun dun dun. Yeah,
exactly. There are pirates. There are more pirates. That's the pirate song.
Yeah, it's pretty much been used for.
Or what about even the ending credits, like the cheesy '90s alt rock song about speed. Yeah, like it's literally like if you listen to this, it's like a theme song over the end credits.
Oh yeah, it's a feel good ending. Yeah.
It also has a lot of the cliches. One thing that we like to talk about on the show is the hero and the villain qualifier.
Yeah.
It has the villain qualifier when Jeff Daniels looks at it and he's like, I don't recognize the work, but he's a pro.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like,
boom. That's all we need.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, he knows more than Jeff Daniels.
Yeah.
Oh, this is good.
This is good. I'm invested now. Yeah. I guess you don't really get a Keanu hero qualifier in this movie, do you?
The elevator scene is.
I guess
this guy plays by his own rules. He risks people's lives.
Loose cannon.
He shoots his partner in the leg.
Yeah.
Like,
he's the only one who can get us off this bus.
Exactly.
Oh, it's great. It's great. Okay, so let's kind of move into the box office. As we've already talked quite a bit about. Oh, actually, one thing I do want to mention. One piece of trivia is that Jan de Bont was actually attached to a Godzilla movie as the director that was supposed to come out in 1996. Ended up getting canned because who was it? But Sony denied his budget requests, and that very same movie was ended up being made in 1998 with Matthew Broderick. So he was originally the guy that was going to do that movie.
Okay.
But he wanted too much money.
Yeah.
Anyway, box office and whatnot. This movie was made for $30 million.
Just obscenely low.
So, like you said, it's basically an indie nowadays.
Yeah.
And when you consider that it made like
350 million worldwide.
Yeah, 350 million worldwide. It actually is Keanu Reeves' fifth highest grossing movie of his career, behind the 3 Matrix films and Something's Gotta Give.
Of course, Something's Gotta Give.
People loved Something's Gotta Give. I saw it in theaters twice.
I like it.
And the fact that this movie was such a massive blockbuster, I was reading a little thing about it. One of the Fox execs was in a screening, and he was sitting there watching the movie, and he started watching the audience, and he realized that whenever people would leave to go to the bathroom, they would walk backwards to the bathroom. And this is a note that he put. He's like, we've got something big here. These people got to pee. They got to do whatever they got to do in the bathroom. They won't even. They cannot divert their attention from the screen until they are out of the theater.
Right.
And that was the first moment of like, I think we've got something huge here. And again, it made over 10 times its budget.
Yeah, in today's market, if to do that, you're spending 175 or 200 million on a movie that would sort of fill the same space.
Right. So you got to make
Not
$2
even-
billion.
Well, and that's, not even counting 100 in P&L.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because they released it June 10th as opposed to the standard like mid-July, beginning of August. That's, I think, some of the reason that it was as successful as it was. I mean, the movies that it was up against, the Flintstones movie had
Right,
been
number
the
2.
incumbent champion for 2 weeks in a row. And you had The Crow and City Slickers 2 and Maverick. Those
Right,
are like
and
the
Schindler's
movies.
List had been out for like 20 weeks or something like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
already, or something absurd.
Well, and you look at, City Slickers 2, a sequel to a very successful movie.
Yeah.
Then Maverick, starring
Mel
one
Gibson.
of the,
Yeah.
arguably one of the biggest action stars in the late 80s, early 90s.
At the time, huge, yeah.
Absolutely.
On top of the fact that if you also think about it, it was June 7th, did you say?
June 10th.
June 10th. So that's still early in the month of June.
Yeah.
And if you look at every movie now, over the last just 10 years, they've been turning the summer blockbuster into the spring blockbuster. So June 10th in 1994 is still relatively early in the summer, considering all the big action movies came out July.
Right.
End of July, beginning of August, end of summer, before school goes into season. So June 10th was still relatively early for a major blockbuster.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to go through and see all the major blockbusters that when they started. Well,
there were massive blockbusters that came out in '94. It was interesting when we went to go look at the budget notes. We were like, there's only 10 movies in theaters? Like, this doesn't seem right. We had to go to like 3 different websites and double check, and all of them was like, yeah, there was literally like 10 to 12 movies in theaters at the time. And that is, again, a testament to why this movie did so well.
I mean, 6 weeks later, that's when you have all the giant successes in
Exactly.
1994.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that's really interesting. It's also, indicative probably of studios paying attention even as far back as 1994 and saying, okay, June 10th, you start talking about that shift.
Yeah.
They probably started to say, if everybody's going to be spending $100 million plus on their movie, and we need this to be a tentpole for our studio to not go under, why don't we stretch it out? Let's make summer start in April. Let's make summer start in May.
Absolutely.
And we'll have a better chance of opening if we're not up against Avengers 2 or something.
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
I mean, now summer starts April 3rd.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
10 days into spring, and it's already summer blockbuster season.
So a couple numbers. Speed was the number 5 highest grossing film of 1994. Yep. It was the number 2 highest grossing R-rated film of 1994, behind True Lies.
Which I love that. I can't wait till we do that movie.
Yeah.
And it's
Hello,
such
Doris.
a good one.
This is Boris.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My roommate in college had the biggest crush on Jamie Lee Curtis. She's like, I don't know what it is, man. I just love that slick back hair.
Hot. She was hot.
She was hot. She was hot back then.
And then it is ranked as the number 3 hostage movie all time, behind Air Force One and Argo.
Air Force
What?
One. Air Force One. Why does that ring a...
Air Force
What
One.
list is that on? Number 3 hostage movie?
Yeah.
Have those people seen Die Hard?
Hey, man. Numbers don't lie.
I guess.
I think it's a different category.
Yeah,
is what
it must
it
be.
is.
I'd be curious to see what kind of
list.
kind of that is, because it's also kind of not a hostage movie.
Speed.
Speed.
The whole bus is a hostage.
The dude's not there.
It doesn't matter, but he's still holding the entire bus hostage by a bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I got to see this list, but I believe you because I don't
absolutely right
read
about Die
things.
Hard. That is really weird.
I know.
right?
I was surprised at that, too. I think it must fall in a different category. It's got to.
Either that or didn't make as much money.
Maybe it might be box office. Maybe.
Yeah.
Could be that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Versus
this is by
budget.
numbers.
Could be like all numbers versus like box office versus budget.
Die Hard's
right.
87, I think. And
87,
I think
88,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, and really, like, you look at the heart of this genre. 87's pretty early. Like,
Yeah.
Predator's 86. Like the Schwarzenegger movies that were really killing it. I mean, T2, for instance, is 1992. That's
Yeah.
kind of right in the heart of it.
Yes.
All the Nick Cage movies we do. That's
Early
all
90s,
mid-90s.
early to mid 90s is like right when it's just action movie gold.
Well, and also, so that actually brings
Absolutely.
up a really interesting point, which is that this is another one of those movies, just like Air Force One, which is put people in a situation that they have to get out of in one location, right? They're on a bus the whole time. They're in a building. They're on an airplane.
Yeah, they go from being in an elevator to being on a bus to being on a subway.
Right. They're pretty much trapped the whole
Yeah.
movie.
Yes.
And it is really interesting that that was a formula that Die Hard created. He complained that it was too similar to Die Hard,
Yeah.
and it's not a formula you see so much anymore. It really isn't.
Yeah, it's a bummer too. Like even in the Die Hard movies, like Die Hard 5, I'm a huge Die Hard fan.
Yeah.
I just love the franchise. Huge Bruce Willis fan. Die Hard 5 there was even a bit of dialogue in the movie where Bruce Willis is like, "We have nothing at stake here. Like we could just
Yeah.
Go back to the United States. And all Die Hard 5 is it's a chase scene. It's a a driving. It's point A to point B to point C to point D. All of a sudden, nukes are in the basement of some place in Russia.
Right.
And it's like there's nothing at stake. Whereas you look at Die Hard and it's single. It's like you're in one place.
Right.
In Speed, you're in one place, but it's essentially the same. You're in multiple places, but you're not going across the globe like a Transformers or like even a Fast 7.
Right.
As much as I love Fast 7, it's that formula of you're in a confined space with people watching you.
Yeah, and I mean it is kind of critical nowadays in movies that like that's everybody's kind of it's like a copycat genre.
Yeah.
You look at like Taken was so successful. Well, if Taken's going to make all this money, then we should probably start looking at that. Car chases and things. I mean,
Absolutely.
It's just a different time. It's just a different time ultimately. And I mean, you can, as we've said, the modern day action movie is the superhero movie.
Yeah.
That's what you get, and you're never going to get superhero movie where everybody's trapped in a location. It's just less unique. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I think the fact that
that'd
it's
be
a
good.
different time kind of leads us right into our next topic, which is the critical reception of this movie.
Hilarious.
It's insane.
Yeah.
This movie got a 93 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
A 93. And it got a 70-something by users.
Yeah.
I wonder if this movie was made now, would those numbers be flip-flopped?
I got a quote for you. Jan de Bont of the New York Times loved it, stating, "The film's dialogue is much more literate than a bus schedule, but its plotting is smart and breathless enough to make up for that." She was like, this movie is intelligent action.
Yes.
When you watch this movie now, does this feel like intelligent action? It feels like awesomely mindless, but this doesn't strike me as the same kind of movie it's not a classic in terms of its quality.
It's kind of crazy how they raise the stakes, because if I think about it, like, this movie is not, like, as a hostage situation, I think Dark Knight Rises kind of takes it with just the boat scene, like just the...
Yeah, that's a hostage movie. That's awesome too.
Yeah.
But I guess intelligent action, versus mind-blowing is what's the difference between spectacle and smoke and mirrors, like explosions and we got all these things going on and we're going to drop cars out of planes. Whereas you got Keanu, you know how fast they're going, and he's on a little cart being wheeled. Now that's intelligent. That's as suspenseful as you can get smartly without just being like, here's 10 more million, add some more fire.
Right.
Okay,
Do you know what I mean?
My point is basically the reviewers at the time, both Peter Travers from Rolling Stone, Jenna Maslin, they compare this movie.
Ebert?
Yeah, Ebert. They all say basically this is as good or better than The Fugitive, which is like I look back and I go, Fugitive in my mind is a classic dramatic thriller. It's a very quality movie.
Yeah.
Great acting, great plotting. This movie's absurd. It's awesome.
Yeah, you have to suspend your disbelief a lot in this movie. Whereas in The Fugitive, there's very few moments where you're like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In this, there's almost moments like that every 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a statement of the quality. I'll give you a good example. A friend of mine I was talking to recently, a guy that had worked with Tony Scott. We were talking about how those movies, those 90s movies, were so effective because he would take these great actors and put them in these ridiculous situations, and you'd be sitting there watching and you'd go, God, is what I'm watching really bad? Wait, is this bad? Is this good? Is this great? I don't even know. I just love it.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what these guys are so good at doing. It's like they're pushing your expectations so much to the edge that you kind of don't really know if what you're watching is a classic or just completely ridiculous. And I really do think that this movie is in that category where, to me, The Fugitive, it's harder to like. So comparing the two, but at the time, people just saw them as the same thing.
Right, and it's crazy that people, again, they favored Speed over The Fugitive.
And nowadays, if they're remaking The Fugitive as a TV show I just read,
Right.
And Speed. So if you took The Fugitive and Speed,
Yeah.
and you both remade them now,
Right.
with every technology, like we have cell phones, we have all this.
Sure.
Fugitive would be way more disproven plot-wise. You'd have to suspend your disbelief way more that this dude who's a prominent doctor, he's got, successful, etc.,
Right.
is going to get framed and completely get chased around the globe.
Sure.
Versus a bomb's going to explode if you go below 50 miles an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
It's way easier to consume and understand that, look, traffic sucks,
Yeah.
drive on the shoulder,
Yeah.
or we're going to die.
Totally.
It's true.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's way more. You look at Avengers, the new Avengers movie, and it's all that type of stuff versus, a chase.
Well, that's kind of what we talked about with Circumstance, right?
Yeah,
This
Speed
movie-
will always triumph over Fugitive.
And the movie is ultimately driven by circumstance, which is super clever. I mean, that's, I wonder if there was like a pitch meeting to make this movie? You know, like what would you say in the pitch meeting? Steven, didn't you say you found some lost audio footage of a pitch meeting for this movie?
Yeah, let me cue it up for you guys.
I mean,
thank you.
this is when Keanu pitched it to Fox, right?
Oh, is it Keanu in the pitch meeting?
I think so.
Okay.
I've never heard this. I'm curious about this.
Okay.
Me too.
Hi, Keanu. It's really nice to have you in the studio. We heard a lot about this movie, and we're really excited to see what you got. So, what is it?
Yeah, son, we're huge fans of yours. We loved Much Ado About Nothing.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. So it's a movie about a bus that can't slow down.
Oh, that's interesting. Can you tell us more? Why can't the bus slow down?
Because if it slows down, then the movie ends.
Oh, interesting. So, is there something in the film preventing the bus from slowing down?
Yeah, the bus itself cannot slow down.
Oh, does it just not have brakes?
No, it has brakes, but it can't slow down.
Okay, one of the major successes our studio has right now is Schindler's List. How does this compare?
Favorably.
So the bus can't slow down. Does it travel through time? Is this a sequel to Bill and Ted's?
No. It can't slow down.
Oh.
Where would you say you could take this franchise?
You could put it on a boat.
So it's like Jaws meets Schindler's List.
Yeah.
So the boat could not slow down?
No, definitely not. Just like the bus.
This is brilliant.
It's fantastic. How much money do you think you need to make the film?
30 million?
It sounds like Keanu was way ahead of his time because Speed 2 Cruise Control is in fact on a boat.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He's
Incredible.
just incredibly talented. And convincing.
He was full of conviction in that interview.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
God, I love that we keep finding these things.
They're
It's
just
amazing.
hidden all over the internet. If you just Google search them, guys, you'll come up with them.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
That's all we're doing.
Google is the best invention ever.
Yeah,
Aside
incredible.
from the iPhone.
So we do want to get into what we consider to be the ultimate action scene, which is very clearly in this movie the scene where the bus has to jump over the missing piece of highway. One of the iconic movie scenes probably of the 90s in terms of action movies.
Right.
And something that I really thought of that was interesting is I can remember growing up and I can remember like my teachers in school, my parents, my older brother. This was a movie that, like, The Simpsons references it. This was a movie that was talked about and spoofed to no end.
Yeah.
It's like that whole, like, I'm trying to think of a great example of the sort of thing, like when the Rolling Stones, when Aerosmith got clean, and everybody's like, whoa, this rock band, they're clean now, they got off drugs, and they're even more successful than ever. It's a story you've heard told 100 times. Right? It's like the basis of, like, if you get clean, you'll be more successful. This movie, it's like, oh, that action movie Speed, they all have to lean to one side of the bus so the bus doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, this is just that movie.
Yeah,
and this
absolutely.
is that scene, you know what I mean? This is, they actually jump a highway in a bus.
Yeah, we've got the scene.
Yeah, so Steve, if you want to cue it up.
I love this scene. It's just so absurd.
It's so exciting. Listen to the music.
Oh, yeah. The music tells you you're supposed to be excited. Road
Yeah.
work.
It's not
Oh, God, he's good. Jack Traven. That guy?
like it's not even like they could have just had him. They should have just fell on the underpass.
Yeah, right?
Like there's
no ramp to propel
there's
them.
nothing. Dude.
But you watch it as it goes off, and it definitely hits a ramp.
It's
A non-existent
not
one.
like
It would legitimately just nosedive.
Oh, yeah. Just, they're not even, yeah. End. Everybody hold on. Grabs Maggie. Got to.
yeah, like what does that do? Wouldn't that have?
Yeah, and then look at it. It just goes straight out. How does it do that?
He, like, grabs her and she turns the wheel and the bus just...
Yeah, it just still goes straight.
Like I mean, that,
And then, boom. Of course it makes the jump.
I would have bought that more if he had everybody go to the back of the bus
Right?
and put the weight on the back of the bus.
Yeah.
Just,
Sure.
Just cunts.
I'm not a scientist, but it sounds like that would work.
Absolutely.
And the best thing is that they reshot this film to make it more believable.
Yeah. Because and so in the reshoot, right,
Or
the one you
shot,
actually see in the
excuse me.
movie,
Yeah.
the bus travels 109 feet in the air, right? It takes off from the ramp at 61 miles an hour. It's supposed to be 70. It only reached 61. But the front of the bus lifts up so high. I think it's like 20 plus feet.
20 feet off the ground.
And it's out of frame. The cameras weren't in place for it.
Okay.
So that's why the bus is not entirely in frame, and it's just sort of, you're watching it and it just seems...
So in real life, it jumped 100 feet?
Yeah, they actually did. They
jumped
set the
100
bus
feet.
up a mile away from a ramp,
Sure.
hit 61 miles at the ramp, and it launched 109 feet, 20 feet off the ground.
That's 50 feet too much, because the gap on the road is only 50 feet.
right, they just fly.
Yeah,
They should have just...
They like fully like messed with the bus. They augmented it. They put in like a giant suspension seat for the driver, which is 15 feet back from the front of the bus, so that when the bus landed, it would reduce spinal compression.
Yeah.
Because if you just were sitting in a regular and you did this, you'd probably just break your back.
Yeah.
Or quite possibly.
Huh.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that's the one thing that I love about movies back then is, and we talked about this with Air Force One, is when the plane was in Ramstein, is that you have to do these things. They actually did this.
Speaking of what we're talking about right now, I was just reading yesterday, Fast 7, Furious 7, most of those stunts they did, like they dropped cars out of the plane.
Yeah, you have to.
They had a stunt dude run up the side of a bus that was falling off of a cliff.
Crazy.
Like they did. I mean, they didn't drive a car through 3 skyscrapers in Dubai.
Sure.
But they did most of the other stuff practical.
Well, that's the thing about CG, is it has made us so aware of CG.
Right.
That when you watch movies now, and like you said in Fast 7, if those scenes were completely computer generated, as an audience member, you'd be like, that's fake, this sucks. So they actually have to do it. And that's why I love 90s movies, is because they do it all the time. And it's so believable.
Yeah.
Another just note that I just remembered, there was a reference to Dukes of Hazzard early in the movie, like right in the first scene where the car like does the 90s thing where it like flies over. It's like, you know, travels in the air and lands, and like it was just sort of like a nod at the fast car genre or whatever. But
oh yeah, that's one of the best parts of the beginning, is that like they have to get to the building, and then the car goes flying over the hill, crashing to the ground, and then they get out and get dressed.
Yeah, of course.
It's great.
It's like, we're here. It's like, here's the situation. We have 13 hostages. Like, God, I love these movies. So this scene is definitely pretty iconic. I think, would you say it is the most iconic scene in the movie, right?
Yeah, which is crazy because this wasn't even in the original script.
Right.
The director was driving on the freeway, because this movie was actually shot on the 105 and the 101 during reconstruction, and he saw a part of freeway that was missing. And he was like, hey, that's a great idea. So the most iconic scene in the movie wasn't even in the script.
That's kind of like in Glengarry Glen Ross, where they wrote the Alec Baldwin speech for the screenplay. It's not in the play, and it's the most memorable scene of the entire movie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I watched that scene literally once every 3 months.
Put that coffee down.
My friends and I quote that so much.
Yeah.
It's such a good scene.
Coffee is for closers only.
But the director loved that idea of it not being finished so much, he wanted to use it twice within 20 minutes.
Right.
And he also had the subway not finished.
Right.
Which is interesting, because we talk about this in movies, and it happens in Air Force One after Gary Oldman dies, and they got the MiGs chasing the plane.
Yeah.
And this movie, they've got the bus, everyone gets off the bus, and then they have to find a way for Keanu to catch Hopper. And so they add this extra like 25 minutes of film that kind of falls flat a little bit.
It's sort of like, what's the point
It's
of
just
this?
dragging out the movie.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, do you feel the same about that?
I don't 100% disagree. That's the problem. That's where it's almost like it's not a hostage movie to the extent that there's a whole extra, or even like, well, then again, you also have like Die Hard 3, where he gets the headache pills and he deduces where Jeremy Irons is hiding out at.
Right.
So it's like, so you save the day. How do you catch the bad guy?
Exactly.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to have him somehow or another, and I guess you can't have him just chase him on foot with no repercussions. I mean, you need another hostage.
Exactly.
So it's like, you need to have Sandra Bullock exit the ambulance, even though she would be at a hospital. Yeah. She wouldn't even be with the police. She'd be taken with all the other hostages to be debriefed.
It is interesting. Like, it's difficult to end these movies. I mean, last week we complained at length about the ending of Edge of Tomorrow. We felt like the ending of that movie was kind of tacked on. And you do have to sort of think the alternative is like, okay, what if in this movie they had basically ended it 20 minutes earlier? Maybe they give you just, a quick, somehow they catch Dennis Hopper, I don't know. And then the movie ends. Would we all be sitting here thinking like, the ending's just really anticlimactic?
Well, this movie completely ran out of money before they even put in the whole subway scene at all.
Oh.
They ran out of money, and so they screened the movie to test audiences.
Oh, right. With the animated
storyboard for the last 25 minutes of the movie. It was just an animated storyboard, and the audience loved it so much that the studio was able to come up with the money to finish the movie and add that all in.
I seen a similar version of Edge of Tomorrow like 2 years before it came out, like a year and a half before it came out, where a lot of the explosions and everything were like fake CG and like cartoons.
Interesting.
And the ending was a little different. They edited it a lot for the the major populace and put the love interest in there.
Right.
And Tom Cruise actually at the beginning he was a bigger dick and he was like more of like the ad guy and a chauvinist and hitting on women and all that. And they really shortened that up. But it's very interesting how movies over time, how if they do well they can get more budget. Yeah,
and as the scripts develop, one of my favorite script development stories is that the script for the original script, I think it is for Beverly Hills Cop, was rewritten so many times that eventually became Cobra. Yeah. Which is just so ridiculous.
So ridiculous.
Can't wait to do Cobra on the show.
Stallone was supposed to be in Beverly Hills Cop, then it ended up
being Cobra.
Ended up getting down to Cobra. But it's also interesting. So I read not too long ago that it's almost the house exploding was an added in like a second effect. Like Jeff Daniels wasn't originally supposed to die, so that could have been the ending had that subway scene not been in, as they would have actually just found the dude at the house. Like we figured you out, we solved
like Daniels would have found him.
Yeah, he would have, and they would have caught the dude.
But it's like a puzzle because I like that Jeff Daniels dies in the explosion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, truthfully, we break these things down. We talk about them in this way, but we love this movie. I mean, this movie's great.
So it's phenomenal. 93% on Rotten Tomatoes.
So let's get into the moments we love the most. This is something we're going to be introducing this week, guys, called the fist pump moment. So normally we do our favorite scene, but I think that's kind of generic. So what I want to do this week, we've all had the experience where you're home, it's late, you're watching some movie, maybe you've had a drink, something, I don't know, maybe you're really into it, and this moment happens in the movie where you just sort of like, you find yourself like nodding your head and squinting your eyes, or like, we call it the fist pump moment, where you just say to yourself, yes, I get to watch this movie for another hour. Like, hero in situation, yes. Like, it could be anything. It's very subjective. It's kind of loose. But if this happens to you sober watching a movie, you know you're really onto something.
Oh, totally.
So I want to go through, each of us chooses a fist pump moment for Speed. I'm going to go first, because I love this. The fist pump moment for me in Speed is when the bus explodes at the beginning, and he's standing, and he's like, oh, God. And he hears the phone ring in the background, and it's kind of eerie. You're like, what is going on? He walks over, he picks the phone, he's like, pop quiz, hot shot. Yeah. There's a bomb on a bus. Once it goes above 50, and you're like, oh, this is great. And he's like, I'd want to know what bus. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, this is so good.
Right.
I'm just totally in at that point. Yeah. I'm on board.
And the bus is 25-25, which later on I found out is because 25 plus 25 is 50.
Yeah.
Just a weird production note, but it's still interesting.
It's excellent.
Yeah. Raz?
My favorite, my fist pump moment would be, I would say 2 minutes in, when the elevator gets stuck and you're like, okay, I'm assuming it's this guy, but the people in the elevator don't know why. And somehow or another, they found out, like the hotel or wherever they're staying may have called the elevator repair shop or whatever. And this police car comes hurtling over a mountain. There's at no speed could that car have gone that would have launched it over a bump like that in downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah.
No way. And that hurdle at least like 25 feet in the air, landed properly, and they get out and they're like, oh, okay, there's this thing. So just the fact that like there's way other routes they could have gotten there that probably would have been way faster than going through Silver Lake, I'm imagining, because that's the only place I know with that many hills.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, anytime a police car hurtles over the horizon, I'm on board.
Yeah, because it's like, this is what this movie's going to be like. So here you go.
Huge fan of horizons and hills and police cars hurtling through the air.
I'm going to hop on that train as well. Yeah. My fist pump moment is when they're like, we have to exit. And it's like, they're going to exit. They're going to exit. So they're going to take a bus into downtown Los Angeles at 50 miles an hour. And this ensues the tilting of the bus and everyone on one side and the bus jump. It's just like right then when I'm like, oh, they have to exit. I'm like, yes, here we go. Here comes the craziness. Here comes the madness.
What I love so much about the idea of a fist pump is it's that moment where you're watching and you're just like, I love this movie. Yep. I love it. I'm so on board.
Actually, can I change mine?
Yeah.
I want to change mine to the fact that there's like hardly zero traffic in Los Angeles, and I want to I want to live in this magical land of Los Angeles that there's no traffic at 8 in the morning in Santa Monica, or even on the 10. Like they hopped on the 10 at 8 o'clock when he was trying to find the bus, and there's like zero traffic heading east or west. And I'm like, I want to live in this world.
Carmageddon, 1994.
One of the guys in the chat, would you like to know, his fist bump moment is for me. Dennis Hopper's head hits one of the subway markers and gets decapitated. Keanu says, Yeah, but I'm taller.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's a good one.
That is a great one. Thank you for that.
A line that doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense, but
Yeah, I'm taller. Like what?
because the head's gone now. That's
Leverage
why?
maybe because he was
his arms are longer.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so now I want to go over favorite line.
Yes.
And this time I will start with you guys.
So I have a couple. The first one isn't really a line, and it's in the trailer. It's right after Keanu shoots Jeff Daniels in the leg, and then Dennis Hopper kind of like waddles away. He's like, ha ha ha! It's just like a maniacal, like hilarious waddle laugh combination. But since that's not a line, it's the end of the trailer and the end of the movie. Pop quiz, hotshot. You've got a hairpin trigger aimed at your head. What do you do? What do you do?
Yeah, it's great. Classic.
My runner-up, that would have to be my main one, Pop Quiz, because that's one of the most quotable of all action movies.
Yeah.
Aside from, Welcome to the Party, Pal, or Yippee-Ki-Yay,
Sure.
I would say Pop Quiz Hot Shot or What Do You Do is one of the most, any guy or any girl who loves action movies or just grew up in that era quotes it for some reason. Even if you don't know where it came from, What Do You Do or Pop Quiz, when you're like being sarcastic or sardonic or talking down to people, it's from that movie, and everybody uses
Standard,
it.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So my runner-up would have to be, there's enough C4 on this bus to blow a hole in the world.
Yeah.
Come on, guy. No, there's not. The world's pretty big. That bus is very small.
You have a hair trigger aimed at your head. What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do? Yeah.
Oh, the music.
That's like, I totally agree with you. And that actually reminds me of the other line that Jeff Daniels says when he's in the office. And this is not my line, but when he's just like, he's encyclopedia of bombs.
Yeah.
It's just more qualifiers. It's so good. So my favorite line is actually one of the early moments when you're just like, slam, bang, action, thriller, where they're driving and Maggie sees, is it Maggie or Annie?
Annie.
Annie. And she sees that there's a woman pushing a stroller across the street, and you're like, no! And it hits it, and it just goes flying. There's cans everywhere. And Keanu turns around, and to me, this is one of the classic, like, what makes him Keanu. He turns around, he's like, cans! It was full of cans! It's just like,
He's like excited but trying to calm someone down at the same time.
You just don't even.
Awesome.
I just don't even know. It's just amazing. It just makes me. It made me laugh out loud to the point that last time I was watching this movie with a glass of wine in my hand, I paused it to call my buddy in Seattle, who used to be like my favorite movie with it. Just be like, "Do you remember that moment in Speed when they hit the cans?" Like, I just was so excited.
So good.
Excellent.
And it was like an old-timey stroller. It wasn't even like a 1994 stroller. It was like a stroller from like 1943.
Yeah. Hilarious.
We got Wild Man Beyond in the chat says fist foot moment for me is when Jack steals the car and the guy's still in the car.
Yeah. Glenn Plummer, the actor. Sorry, I'm going to hijack this.
Go ahead.
He lost his license 2 days before filming this movie. So they had to work around that in the film. But I love that. In the 90s, if you're a cop and you don't jack someone's car, then you're not doing your job right.
Well, yeah, and the other thing that I love is this is another like trope we see in these movies where it's just like desperate character destroys luxury vehicle. He's like, I don't care that your car's nice. I'm gonna rip the door off. It's the same thing as in The Rock, you know. And the guy's like, you just effed up your Ferrari.
Right. Or he's like, if you scratch my hammer, I'll have your ass.
Yeah, exactly. It's classic.
So good.
Blowing up nice stuff. All right. So we're gonna move into where the hero and villain rank all time. This is sort of a weird one because they're not iconic characters, for me anyway. I'll let you guys jump in first with this. This is an exercise where we just sort of talk about, if you're thinking about the top 20, the top 50, the top 100 heroes and villains, do the characters in this movie chart?
No way. Not at all.
Not for you at all?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So what are you saying, like top 100, top 200, top 250, or not even?
Top, if we're going top 100 and I had to sit down and I had like 8 hours to compile a list, maybe top 100.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's so many. Bruce Willis alone would be on the top.
Yeah, of course.
Top
McClane,
20, and then you got every Tom Cruise.
It's weird if you compare like McClane to Jack Traven, you know?
Yeah.
It's definitely. He's a mad bomber. It's not like he's. You know what I mean? Like other villains and other other action movies are just way more iconic than Dennis Hopper. On a walkie-talkie.
I don't know if I totally agree with you. I'm gonna let you jump in on this.
It's interesting because I'm kind of on the fence about it. I'd maybe put Hopper in the top 50. Like, he doesn't have that same impact, because I know that Silence of the Lambs is not an action movie, but Anthony Hopkins won an Academy Award for that movie, and he's on screen for like 15 minutes.
Right.
Hopper's in the same situation where he's hardly ever on screen. There's hardly interaction between him and the hero other than on the phone or on the walkie-talkie. It doesn't carry that same weight that Anthony Hopkins does. He's not as great. It's not as well acted, I don't think.
Yeah.
I'd maybe put him in the top 50, probably closer to top 75.
Sure.
And then for Keanu, I don't know, top 100. I love the movie.
Yeah.
And I love him in the movie. But I don't want this hero saving my ass at the end of the day.
No.
I'd much rather have like 99 other heroes doing
Absolutely.
it.
Like
I think
Batman or somebody.
I think I go. Hopper is memorable in a way that a lot of the villains from these movies aren't. Even the campy ones, like the villain from Commando who wears the mesh shirt and is like loosely like pale and fat.
Right.
Who's like a funny villain.
Yeah.
But he's not memorable in the same way that Hopper's memorable. So I would give Hopper top 40.
Top 40.
And then for Keanu, actually. See, the thing that's so beautiful about Keanu in this movie, this and Point Break, that's like really the pair. Because later in his career, when he's a little older, it doesn't resonate in the same way. It's so great, it's just different.
Yeah.
But young Keanu, where he's like pretty jacked,
Yeah.
he's a singular action star. Because as we said, it's kind of like he's accidentally the smartest guy in the room because he's this well-to-do hotshot who's kind of got a heart of gold.
Right.
And
he's kind of stupid.
Yeah, he's very memorable for me. I'm going to put Jack Traven in my top 25.
Top 25.
He might hit like maybe like
guy.
top 30. Maybe like he's like number 27, but he's not outside the top 30.
Really?
Wow. There's not that many action stars that I can think of where I'm just 100% just
Are we talking action stars or the character?
the character.
The character.
There's not that many characters I can think of where I go, I like this guy more. Like there's just not. I mean, there's a bunch of Tom Cruise characters, but there's a bunch of Willis
There's at
and
least
Cage.
8 Tom Cruise characters. There's at least 4 Bruce Willis characters. That's 12. That gives you 18 more to go.
All right, I'm gonna
You got
readjust.
Harrison Ford.
back up a little bit.
You got
back
Harrison Fords. You got
I'm gonna back up.
okay. You got every superhero.
I'll put Traven top 50.
Okay.
And I'll put Hopper in the top 40.
Okay.
I'll give you that. I'll give you
take
those.
that.
I'll give you Dennis Hopper. Where do the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park range though? Because they're way more memorable than Dennis Hopper. When I'm thinking villains, I'm thinking of the T-Rex.
Not an action movie. We can't
No?
do it on the show. Now we've thought about it before. It violates too many of the rules.
I'm not gonna. We're gonna cut him off there.
As far as
we
just-
might be able to do it in the movie.
As far as the
Jurassic
list though,
World's coming out.
like character, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
as
yeah.
far as villain, if we're going hero and villain list,
Yeah,
I mean
yeah.
the dinosaurs are more memorable than Dennis Hopper.
I mean, that's the same thing as the monkeys in Congo, the aliens in Alien.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
all
right,
that.
right,
It's,
yeah.
it's
It's a hard thing to...
exactly.
Okay.
Lists like that are always hard to factor in.
So we just have a couple more little bits to hit before
Sure.
we wrap it up. This is one of my favorites, and this week, guys, I know last week we mentioned that this is recast. We're going to recast the film with modern day actors if they were to remake it. We want you to do it with us. So a couple of you actually were cool enough to comment on the YouTube video, tweet at us and let us know. You can tweet at us personally, or you can comment on the YouTube video about your recasting choices. There's 4 characters to recast. We're going to be recasting Keanu, Sandra Bullock, Dennis Hopper, and Jeff Daniels. And this is with modern day actors who kind of closely resemble the same point in their career. So I will let one of you fellas start.
All right. I guess I'll hop on this train. I think that Sam Worthington would be an excellent replacement for Keanu in this.
That's interesting. It's pretty
You know,
good.
he was really hot a few years ago, but he could totally play that like accidental genius.
Yeah.
He's jacked, he's good looking enough. Like
Sure.
I think he would do great in this role.
That's pretty clever. I hadn't thought of that. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna say Tom Cruise.
Even now?
Oh yeah,
Cruise.
he doesn't age. Dude.
52-year-old Tom Cruise.
Absolutely, he's a cop, ready. You know what I mean? Like he's yeah. I mean, he's been there a while. He's a loose cannon.
Yeah.
He's got enemies
Sure.
that he's foiled. He's foiled so many people time and time again.
And he's so aggressively
He's gotten
sincere.
medals. He's so what I mean.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise, absolutely.
Okay. What about for you, Bateman?
There's a camera on this bus.
Yeah.
You're okay. Yeah. Okay. I go Chris Evans.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
dig that.
Chris
Yeah,
Evans,
sure.
I think, would
Chris Evans
destroy it. He's, I think, like, he's almost a little too famous now. It would have been perfect if it was like Chris Evans, like pre Captain America.
Right.
But I still think he could do it now. I actually don't think Chris Evans is that big of a star, despite him being Captain America. I mean, he's very
pretty
famous.
massive.
Yeah.
He's very famous, but I wouldn't feel like he wouldn't be like offensively star-studded
Right.
in the way that Keanu wasn't yet.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's kind of the everyman a little bit, somewhat still. Okay, let's go Hopper. What do you guys got?
Hopper, Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, that's great.
I love Tommy Lee Jones. You can throw a little bit of Two-Face in there,
Great point in his career too. Just cheesy enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones is good. I would say Sammy Jackson would be a good one. Sammy J.
Okay.
He would be. He's always a good villain.
And he's campy a little.
He's always a good villain. Like he's just, he could be, crazy enough.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say him. Jack Nicholson would be good. I like him in every movie.
I
though.
love Jack.
But he's super old. He'd be like, he would not be able to run, or he'd be like,
I think what's really interesting about when you're recasting Hopper at this point is because, as we said, he's kind of at the tail end. He's still convincing, but he's corny.
Yeah.
It's like, he was a great actor at one time, but he kind of gets away with being a little like silly, which is why I choose Robert De Niro.
De Niro could be good.
I think De Niro at this point in his career is just right for it.
He was one of the original people
To play it. But I think he was too believable. Still.
I think that's what happened.
Like, I'm trying to think of, like, because he was probably 50-ish.
He was 94 is like right around the time that he's making like Night in the City, Mad Dog Glory, Heat, Ronin the next year, like
right.
So I'm trying to think of like 55, maybe 60-year-old-ish.
Yeah.
Older actor guys that have that have been around the block, and
there's a bunch.
I'm thinking of 55-year-old actors. I'm going straight to like Clooney and all that, who are like 50 years old.
And they're too credible.
They're too credible.
So I'm saying De Niro at this point is like no longer credible dramatically. Like I don't doubt he could still pull off a good script. I just think that the kind of work he's been taking, he would be perfect for this role now.
I mean, you could do the dude Snape. What's his name again? Alan Rickman would be good. He could be good.
Yeah, Rickman's
He could be a
always
good bad guy. He's always a good bad guy though.
Sandra Bullock. What do you guys got? Not yet famous Sandra Bullock, really.
Okay, Sandra Bullock. I'm gonna go with Elizabeth Olsen just because I'm in love with her right now.
She's kind of blowing up right now.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Jessica Chastain.
No, she's too intense.
Nah.
She's beautiful, smart, intense.
Nah, she can be dumbed down a little bit.
I love Jessica Chastain.
Me too. I think she's phenomenal.
I would do
which is
very
why I
nice
think
things for her.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I would open the door for her. She's fantastic.
I would let her borrow my hoodie, even though I said you should bring your own.
Right. She's great.
I think that she's so great that she could play this role.
Excellent. I really love mine. I thought I did. I'm forgetting it now. I had such a good one.
Jessica Chastain was.
I got
so
another
good.
one if you can't remember yours.
I should have written it down. It was so good. Go ahead.
I'd say Deborah Ann Woll.
Okay, she'd be good.
Oh yeah.
Emily Blunt could be good.
I said that too. I really like.
Yeah.
She's a
Emily
good
Blunt.
action star.
She's great. Yeah. She's kind of intense. Damn it. I can't remember mine. All right. We're going to move on to Jeff Daniels, and I'll hopefully remember mine before we're done.
Joel Edgerton.
Oh, Edgerton, sure. Don't you think Edgerton and Worthington in the same movie would be like a little, they're kind of too similar
Super
looking?
awesome. Yeah.
They're like kind of the same person a little bit.
I just love Joel Edgerton so much, and I think he could totally play that role.
Anything that we can do to talk about the movie Warrior, we will just do.
Basically.
What do you got?
Jeff Daniels' character. I will go with. I'll say like Adam Brody or someone like that, like a skinnier, like nerdier, like he's the bomber guy.
Yeah.
Like he's the he'd be the nerd that he's not the action hero like Keanu is. He's the one who's in the office studying bomb schematics.
Yeah, kind of like the new Q in the James Bond movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Interesting. I in my mind when I looked at Daniel's character, I was like, you have to be old enough that you're sort of like, I'm only on this mission because I'm a vet, but I'm not physically as fit as like you are. And one injury and I'm gonna be in the office. Adam Brody's too young for me.
Yeah, that's true.
But so I went Dennis Leary. Though he
could be good.
He's like a little old, but he's good and sarcastic.
Yeah, he could talk trash back and forth.
He feels like he'd be like a really good
He'd be a good
foil.
one.
Yeah, I wish I could remember my
Dennis Leary would be a good one.
Sandra Bullock. I'm totally
I wish
disappointed.
you could too, man.
Will Ferrell or Gary Busey?
I do love Busey.
Busey's good.
I'm a huge Busey fan.
Nick Nolte would be good.
Nick Nolte.
Yeah.
Nick Nolte's great.
A bomb on a bus.
I had one option in my mind was Sienna Miller because I think she hasn't established herself as like huge enough that I thought she could do a really great job with it. Anyway, I don't
January
remember.
Jones could be good.
Yeah, she could be good.
Yeah.
Like it's a homely girl. Like they're not supermodel, but it's like a girl who could legitimately.
January Jones is pretty hot. She's
Yeah, but if you put her in, I mean she is, but so is Sandra Bullock.
Yep.
But no, I don't think Sandra Bullock was that hot yet.
Oh.
In my opinion.
I think that's the whole point with Jessica Chastain is that you can always be brought down in your hotness level with Hollywood makeup and clothing, costume.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, let's move on to the last category. We are going to skip Cage versus Cruise this week because
the answer is obviously Cruise.
Yeah, I mean, the three categories discussion, which is which of the three action movie categories does this fit into, which the three categories are totally ridiculous, which is falling off a cliff of absurdity, totally legitimate, which is like the best of the best, could almost be an award-worthy movie, and ridiculously legitimate, which is the perfect hybrid, the zenith, if you will.
Right.
Where does this movie fall for you guys?
For me, this is the perfect hybrid. It's ridiculously legitimate. It's got the legitimacy of the plot and the actual stress level,
right?
Much like Die Hard is. Die Hard's one of the best action movies, I would say, and it's cut and dry. Like it tells you the rules. This is everything you're about to see. this is what's going to come forward. Like, even Dennis Hopper's like, look, dude, this is what's going to happen. Anybody who tries to get off the bus, I'm blown up.
Right.
He does. He states the rules, and you know the circumstances that they're in. They're in a big city with traffic. They're on a highway. They're running out of gas. But they jump 50 feet of highway.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
So it's still suspending disbelief, like, jokey-wise. Like, it's still far-fetched. But had they not jumped that, it would have been, I mean...
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, as legitimate of an action movie as they get.
Sure, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I do love that Hopper just follows through with everything he says he's going to do. I miss that in movies sometimes with the villain.
Absolutely.
Right.
I agree. I find it in the perfect zenith, and the reason is the exact same. San's bus jump. This is a totally legitimate movie. I'll even take the turn where everyone's on one side of the bus and the bus is on two wheels. Whatever, I'll give you that.
Believable enough.
It's believable enough.
I'm not a physics major, but it looked right to me.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
At least they all tried. Like you said, they were all on one side of the bus. Maybe at least in the bus jump, they could have been in the back. But yeah, the bus jump just takes to that point where I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. I just remembered. Mila Kunis.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I think she'd nail it.
You think that Jessica Chastain is too hot and Mila Kunis isn't?
Yeah.
I just think that she's too intense. That's the thing.
Okay.
I think she's too serious.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I respect her as an actress too much.
Fair enough.
I love Mila Kunis to death.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay, I'm going to go with the same thing as you guys. I'm going to go even a step further and say I think this is one of the premier. I'm going to go on record. This is top 3 of the middle category. In my opinion, if you were making that list, which I have a loose idea, which we won't get into right now, this is a top 3 movie in the ridiculously legitimate category.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I think it's...
I mean, it's as far as... I mean, it's cut and dry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's so believable in the sense of everything is real world, like, grounded.
Yeah. It's almost in the legit category to, like, totally
So close,
legitimate. You could make a strong argument that it is. It's just the tonality to me of... The tonality of Keanu is what drops it into the middle category, because he's that total, just like the absurd character where you're just kind of you're just laughable almost.
Absolutely.
The movie is too laughable while watching it in an awesome way to, I think, give it the ultimate legitimacy. So I think it is a premier movie in that middle category.
Absolutely. I'll concur.
Excellent. Fantastic show.
I like it.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for
Absolutely.
coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. This has been really, really fun. Seriously, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, this was super, super fun. So, guys, if you want to check in with us on future episodes, you can follow any one of us on Twitter. My Twitter, Instagram, and occasionally Periscope is Ben Bateman Media.
Mine is at Andrew Ghai on Twitter, Ghai.
My name is on Twitter at my name is Razzle 2. The number 2, and I got a couple other podcasts if I can promote those. I host a couple podcasts. I host a podcast called Today We Learned on the Nerdist Network. Then I host another podcast with my buddies Zachary Levi and Tyler Labine, who have been in action movies and stuff like that. So you might like that too. And it's called Picking Favorites. And that one is it's on the Wolf Pop Network. And pretty much we sit down with a guest and we pick 3 categories and we talk about our favorite. So it could be favorite Stallone movie, our favorite food, and our favorite Tom Cruise movie or whatever. It's changes every week and it's really, really fun. So please check those out.
If you ever want to come on here and talk about your favorite Tom Cruise movie, you're always welcome.
Oh, dude, I could talk about Tom Cruise forever.
We'll have you back for a Cruise episode. He's my favorite. Thank you so much for checking in, guys. Remember, YouTube, Twitter, etc., interact, rate us, and we will see you next week.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.